Hello and welcome. This is Charles Kelly. Welcome to Money Tips, bringing you money tips to help you save, earn, invest, accumulate, and enjoy more money. Hope you're having a good day wherever you are. And here in London, it's been a cold, crisp, sunny day. It's been really nice actually, but it's now quite cold. It's evening now, so it is quite cold. So anyway, yesterday we talked about property prices and whether experts think they're going to rise or fall in the coming year. And the general consensus was that they are going to rise by anywhere between 1 and 3%. Now, most of these experts are, of course, industry people who have a vested interest in the property market and they want to see it rise. So they very, very rarely talk it down. But some areas, we talked about average rises in the last year, which, depending on when you set the year, like year to November, year to October, year to December, range from between 1.4 and 2% over the whole country. But you can't really judge the property market by just talking about one part of the country. Up north and in places like Blackburn and County Durham in the northeast grew by 13%, and other parts of the northwest, like around Cheshire and places like that, Blackburn, Bolton, rose by 6%. Now, I also said that London is a big area as well. You can't really just say London. You've got London, Kensington and Chelsea, where the average minimum prices, run at 900,000 for three-bed properties and go up to millions and millions. So it's very difficult to judge. Now, if you want to know how you can find out the best place to buy or rent, because you might think, well, can I afford to buy? Can I afford to rent? There's a very useful house price calculator on the BBC website, on the BBC business page. If you go to bbc.co.uk and then news stroke business, or just find the news channel and then click on business, you will find there that then you'll be able to locate house price calculator. Where can I afford to rent or buy? And all you do really is just go on there and you can put in a borough or a town or a postcode anywhere in the country, and then you can sort of flick around and change. So if I look at, say, the borough of Brent in London, Brent in North London, they're saying average low prices for a 3-bed property, it runs at anywhere between 460,000 to the medium to the high of 650,000. Now that doesn't mean that that you won't find higher or lower prices within that, but that's just averages. And then if I click on rent, you can see that for a 3-bed property you'd pay at least £1,651 per month, and up to maybe £2,000 a month. Now there's going to be exceptions within that. And these are for 3-bed houses. And you can also see that the prices in Brent on sale prices actually went up by 1.3%. But in neighbouring areas, like Barnet, for instance, only went up by 0.8%. But then Barnet is a big borough. You've got parts of Barnet which are multi-million-pound houses and parts of Barnet which are quite cheaper. A lot cheaper, I mean. And then just above Barnet, you've got Hertsmere, which went down by 0.9%, and so on. So you can go to different boroughs and click on different boroughs, and they will have changed just from one borough to another, and that's just one part of London. If you go to, say, Harrow, for instance, that went up slightly, 0.8%. So it's as I said, it's very difficult to just tar the whole of London with the same brush, because when you start getting into Kensington and Chelsea, you're looking at a low property prices of nearly £1 million, running up to several millions, and prices there actually went down by 0.5% last year. And similar story in neighbouring Westminster, which did rise slightly. So it really depends where you go. Then if you go just a little bit below Westminster, Southwark, for instance, Southwark went up by 3.3%. Southwark is that borough just really very close to London, very close to central London, and it's becoming very popular. They're doing a lot of regeneration there. But you'll pay anywhere between 500,000 and 1,000,000, well, 850,000 for a three bed property if you can find it. But Southwark can also be quite expensive. And then Lambeth, that also went up by 1.5%. Wandsworth went up by 2%, 2.2%. So, as I'm saying, you've got to look around. Tower Hamlets is another area which is going through a lot of regeneration. Newham went up by 1.7%, and then if we can just click into Tower Hamlets, also went up last year. So this what this website will do, it will give you an idea of the sale prices in all of those places, towns all over the country, and you can then compare with rent, because you just click the box and then you can compare it with the rent for that area. So have a look at that BBC website, and you can also use things like Rightmove and Zoopla. But what I like about this one is it gives you a map there, and then you can click on different parts of the map without having to sort of re-key in town names and postcodes and that sort of thing. So that's a very useful tool, and I think, as I said, you will know in your particular area which areas are best for you and which areas are likely to sort of go up or down. I mean, there are pockets of the country which are always going to be expensive. You know, Oxford, the Cotswolds, Harrogate. Obviously parts of London and places like Richmond are always going to be expensive, and even if the market goes down, those places will still maintain good prices. So what I can tell you is that there is still a shortage of property in the UK. They say they're going to have to build 200,000 homes a year. They're barely managing 200,000 homes a year, and that really doesn't account for everything, because it depends. As the economy is growing and people become better off, they'll want to buy. There's going to be people living longer and needing properties, people divorcing, etc., etc. And there's still people coming into the country. Net migration is still running at, I think the last figure was certainly over 100,000 net migration, there's still a lot of people coming into the country and settling here. So they'll still need properties. And the 200,000 a year estimate is just for the people who are here now, not for any new people that come in. They are building near enough 200,000 new homes a year. But, there's still a lot of need for social housing, which is not being coped with within that. So there's still a shortage of property. And, we heard figures today that record numbers of people are now in employment. Over 30 million people, in fact, are in employment in the UK, and even more of those are female workers as well. More women in work. So employment now, the percentage of people in work has gone up as well to 73%. That's between 16 and 64. So the actual unemployment rate is down, and UK unemployment is actually at a 45-year low. So the percentage of economically active people over the age of 16 who are unemployed is now, the rate is just 3.8%. So that's fantastic. When you go back to the 80s, unemployment was in the sort of 12% range, and even in the 90s it was still over 10%, near enough 11%. So unemployment is down at a 45-year low. So the economy here is doing reasonably well. Now, I know a lot of people argue, well, these are not proper jobs. They're 0-hour contracts and that sort of thing. But it's not all 0-hour contracts working for Amazon or something. There are proper jobs being created in the city. There's a lot of new businesses and startups in this country. We're one of the highest rates of new business startups. They attract people. More and more people are getting into proper jobs. And if you look at the vacancies in the NHS, I think they need 39,000 nurses in the NHS. There's a shortage of doctors. There's a shortage of midwives. There's jobs there. If people will train up for the right jobs and get degrees that will give them a career path rather than getting a degree in archaeology, just to give a silly example, too many people are probably doing degrees in things where there's not enough work. Maybe there's too many people doing law degrees and media studies where there's not the work, and less people doing the jobs like doing studies in nursing and midwifery and medicine where there is work. So, they're going to need to do something about that. They're probably going to have to fill some of those NHS vacancies from overseas. They're probably going to bring nurses in from overseas. I think Boris Johnson said that last year. And the typical places would be from the Philippines, from India and maybe parts of Africa, where they'll import nurses. But what they really should be doing is training up more homegrown nurses to do the job, because that is much less of an upheaval for the hospitals. It's much less of an upheaval for the countries where they're taking the nurses from. So anyway, if you want to find out more about housing again, have a look on that website on the BBC, and it's on bbc.co.uk/news/business, and then you'll find a link in one of the stories to that site, or just Google it. The cheapest places to live or rent in the UK, and then you can find out. And as I said, hopefully with the election over and the Boris bounce and getting out of this Brexit thing that's held everybody back for the last few years, hopefully things will get on the move again, and we can put all these things behind us now. And with the new government, they've pledged to start spending money again and getting the economy moving, because when they start spending money and putting in new infrastructure projects, that creates a lot of employment, and that all trickles down to everybody. So hopefully 2020 will be a better year for us, and we can all smile a bit more than in the last couple of years, which have been a bit fraught with all the Brexit arguments going on. That's all out the way now, so let's move forward into 2020. And if you want to know how to get into property and you'd like to perhaps learn a bit more, drop me a line at charles@charleskelly.net, and I'll put you onto some free courses where you can go and do a taster course and find out about the various strategies in property, which some people think is just about buy to let. Well, that's just single buy to let. You buy a flat or a house, rent it to one person or a family, and that's it. But there are many other strategies. There's houses in multiple occupations, HMO, where you turn the house into rooms. A lot of people want a room. They can't afford a flat. Many people in London rent rooms, anywhere between £450 to £600, £700, £800. There's some luxury rooms being built, where they rent out a studio room in a big building for £1,200 and £1,300 a month in Wembley. It's not even central London. So there's a big need for rooms for single people, young professionals. So that's one strategy. Serviced accommodation, serviced apartments like you might see on Airbnb, that's another strategy. There's ways of getting into property without using any of your own money, or not even using any money at all. There's lots of different strategies you can learn on these courses, but I definitely wouldn't go out and put all your savings into one property, because you could be making a big mistake. You could be buying the wrong type of property in the wrong area. Maybe it's difficult to find tenants. A lot of people get confused with what they would like to live in and what a tenant would like. They think, well, I wouldn't live there, so no one would, I wouldn't buy there because I don't like living there. Well, that's not necessarily what a tenant wants. A tenant might like living in a noisy street near the station. You might not like it, but they do. I once had a flat above a shop, and I thought, well, I wouldn't live here. I don't like it. But it always rented out. People liked being in that high street. Although it was noisy and it was above shops, but people liked it, and they always, it was never empty. So there you go. Don't confuse what you want and what a tenant wants, but learn how to do it professionally, so that you might not even need to use any of your own money if you learn how to do it properly. And definitely you should learn how to do anything before just jumping in with both feet, because I've seen some people make some huge mistakes, and despite what people say, you can lose money in property. It's not all win-win all the time. You can buy the wrong type of properties and actually lose money. You've got to think about all the costs as well, the stamp duty, all the legal fees, and a lot of people underestimate that. Getting mortgages, how easy is it to get mortgages? So learn all about these things before you jump in and do that. Email me at charles@charleskelly.net if you're interested, or drop me a line on Messenger. So thanks for listening. This is Charles Kelly bringing you money tips to help you save, earn, invest, accumulate and enjoy more money. Thanks for everyone who tuned in on Facebook Live and on my podcast, which is on iTunes, Stitcher and Anchor. Thanks a lot and good night.